Last year, Eric Debay and friends released a flat earth mockumentary, if you will, called Level. Now, we obviously totally debunked it. Here is the full supercut for those episodes. Link will be in the description as well. Well, you won't be surprised to hear that Eric and friends are back. This time, they're going to the next level. Hello all and welcome along to another episode of Flat Earth Friday with me, Simon Dan. Thank you very much for joining me. Right, back to today's video, which is the first part of the next level takedown. We did it with Eric Debay's first documentary and we're going to do it again with this one. As before, it will be as thorough as I can make it, and as before, it will also be in separate parts. This one is going to be a longer video than usual, so get yourself comfy and get a cup of tea or coffee because it's going to be a good one. Let's skip the fancy intro and get stuck in. Here we go.
The one thing globe believers need to understand is that you don't just take the spinning ball Earth and flatten it out and put it back in the heliocentric model. Like it's just the only misfit planet and it's flat and the rest of the planets are round. No flat earther has ever said that. No flat earther will ever say that because it's not what we believe. The Earth isn't a pancake floating in outer space.
And I don't think I've ever said that you guys claim that it was. I know your stance. Anti-globe, basically.
And you will never hear a flat earther say that. And if you would ever actually take the time to study it for yourself or hear a flat earther through, then you would find that it's much different and things would actually make more sense.
Yes, I have done that extensively and it still makes no sense.
They've got the narrative control to where anyone that goes to search for this, they're going to see pancakes floating up in space, you know, and it turns people away. Or they see a snow globe. A snow globe out in the middle of space with water falling off the sides, and they're like, what is this? It turns them away. The mainstream agenda was to push their false narrative, all these hit pieces on flat earth. 2016, 2017, that was pretty much the end of the YouTube era, where we could actually find real evidence, real content. Any search engine, the algorithms are suited to their favor. You're gonna see all the hit pieces, you're gonna see all the stuff that's there to debunk flat earth.
Indeed, that's where I come into it.
So it's just, it's almost impossible to get the real information.
YouTube played their part in it, and not just cherry picking which videos they wanted to show, but deciding whether or not they wanted you to subscribe to somebody. So on several occasions and with several different content creators, I'd press the subscribe button to then find out several days or several weeks later that I couldn't find that content creator, assuming they'd either been deleted or they'd been censored beyond belief.
A new flat earther here I see, and she's English. Interesting. I must check her out.
There's a major campaign by Google and YouTube and all of these corporate lying companies.
Here he is, Santos. Whee!
To discredit the flat earth. Why do they have that disclaimer under every video dealing with the topic of flat earth, that it is an archaic, antiquated, outdated model that the ancients used to believe in?
Because it is an ancient and archaic belief. Not a hard one, that.
Of course, the ancients were stupid. They didn't know how to build Gothic cathedrals and they didn't know how to build cities and pyramids.
The problem is, people that think that flat earth is stupid think flat earth is stupid because they're thinking of a stupid flat earth.
Wow, they're all out today, aren't they? No, I think flat earth is stupid because there is no evidence. And those that propagate it don't understand physics or earth sciences, but they pretend they do. They act confident. Now, what's that called again? Ah yes, Dunning-Kruger.
And they ridicule and make fun of flat earthers. It's absolutely ridiculous.
Since 2015, the content providers for Flat Earth have had a living hell.
Martin Litkey, there's a blast from the past. Well, this guy's from Wales and he spends all of his time telling people that the earth is flat and that the mud floods happened.
We have been ridiculed, we have been trolled, we have been censored beyond belief by YouTube. It's really difficult to get the truth out there.
YouTube controls the algorithm. Who owns YouTube? Google. These are these big corporations that came in and said, the flat earth is getting way too big. People are finding this out. We don't want them to find this out.
No, we don't want them being miseducated. People fall for it. That is clear. We can't let it happen.
this will just completely destroy our agenda that we've worked so hard for. We're losing it because of our own technology that we created. So they had to get involved. Withholding information and knowledge is a form of control.
Now, for new people coming into the subject, if you research Flat Earth, the Google analytic will give you government hate propaganda against the Flat Earth truth.
Hey, I'm not employed by the government, and I don't hate. Hate is a strong word, too strong. You know, I'm not happy that you guys spread this stuff, but hate, no.
If you go to Google and try to find anything Flat Earth related, then the first thing that's going to pop up is the Flat Earth Society. And that is something that has absolutely nothing to do with this movement.
I think everyone knows that the Flat Earth Society isn't serious. Why are they banging this drum?
In fact, it's a completely made-up organisation in order to deter anybody looking for some sort of truth. So that you'd first of all get to that page, you'd see these ridiculous accusations and this spinning disc illusion that's going upwards in space that I can assure you nobody believes in. If the globe model was as strong as they claim to be, then there wouldn't be so much concern with anybody talking about a stationary Earth model.
Yes, there would, because you've all been fooled. And you have confidence in the tales that you've been told, the stories that have been spun. And then you spin those stories to others who may not have the scientific understanding to rebut you. And the cycle goes on and on.
Now, everything's fine in court until somebody walks in with a load of shit on you. Everything's fine until somebody out there has evidence that's going to prove you guilty. And that's when you start acting suspicious. That's when you start panicking. That's when you start putting damage control out there, which is inevitably what these bots are, what these trolls are on social media, and of course the algorithms. This is just a new lie that was started in the 20s, and even before then they weren't really teaching anything about the world and where we were. It was just common knowledge.
Yes, knowledge that's backed up with science.
One of the main arguments that globe believers come at you with is we've known for 2,000 years. Aristophanes figured it out with his sticks and shadows.
Same old cack, David. Same old cack.
Well, Aristophanes may or may not have been a real mathematician. He figured out the shape of the Earth. That would have made him the Michael Jordan of mathematicians, but nobody ever mentioned him in a book until the mid-1900s.
Actually, Pappus of Alexandria was a Greek author who lived from 190 to 250 AD. And he mentions Eratosthenes in his 6th book.
What's crazy is I've talked to some elderly people and they've told me that back in their day when they were in school, they didn't even learn about people like Copernicus or Galileo. Everything's up for grabs at this point. People like Christopher Columbus and any other figure in history could be totally false or created just for some sort of agenda.
What, to hide the shape of the Earth? What's the end game there, though? What benefit is it to anyone?
This is everywhere. We found somebody in Croatia. They said they were teaching flat Earth through the 1930s.
Most people think that this flat Earth versus globe Earth has been going back and forth for thousands of years. No, it has not.
No, we've been laughing at flat Earth for about 10 years.
This is a brand new deception. They come up with these stories, these fictional stories, fictional characters, to reinforce that we live on a ball.
All of our globe provers, Galileo, Aristophanes, Copernicus, the pictures of them show that they're Masons, but I contend that we don't even know if they're real. All of our history is a lie.
Is it though? The thing with all those scientists there that you mentioned, have you ever stopped and decided to read some of their work? Or are you parroting the belief that they were not real or they had an agenda taught to you by someone else?
I've met people that said that they were taught flat Earth in the early 1960s in school. They were taught flat Earth and globe Earth, and then it kind of just went away. I interviewed Ruth, a 102-year-old woman, back in February of 2020, and she was taught flat Earth in public school in Connecticut.
Yeah, that was an awful video. It genuinely looked like you'd coached her beforehand. Shocking. Moving on.
Knowing that there is a creator, absolutely. That is one of the main reasons to hide this. But, you know, at the same time, it's nowhere near comparison when 1 billion people find out that there's more land.
It's about hidden land. I think there's possible they could be hiding land in here somewhere with us. And I think that the Antarctica Treaty is very, very, very sinister, and there must be something else going on.
Sinister? The Antarctic Treaty is sinister? Have you read it, Martin? There is nothing in that treaty, not one thing that says you cannot go to Antarctica.
They went really tough with their implementation of the, you know, the Antarctic Treaty and everything else, and just to keep people away from the truth. They didn't want people to know about more land.
Another person who hasn't read the treaty either.
Haven't we been fighting over land forever? Isn't that what always happens? Countries fighting over land, but not on the outskirts of Antarctica. Oh, no. No fighting there.
Yeah, because it would make sense to fight over land that is immensely inhospitable and incredibly hard to get to. Perfect sense. Besides, that treaty didn't come into action until 1959.
They're all in agreement. You can't go there. You can't explore any of it.
Again, it doesn't say that.
That treaty was in effect in 1959. It can't even be questioned until the year 2041. The longest lasting treaty that all of the world signed on to at the same time and is still in place.
It was 12 countries originally, David. Not all of them. Even now, not all of them are on the treaty.
There's about 100 different companies that you can spend a lot of money to go on a little guided tour of just that peninsula, but all of those companies are owned under one umbrella. One person controls them all. They don't let anybody explore Antarctica.
What person? Where's the evidence for that?
Will be a fucking international headline in about 5 minutes. Australian Navy ship shoots.
Facing our way. Bad boys.
Is it?
The turret is turning our way.
The turret's turning at us.
Oh, we should hide Adrian in case they think we're trying to.
Well, hang on. The Bass Strait is an area of water between Australia and Tasmania. So what? Tasmania is too far south now. Better inform all the residents and let them know that they're in a restricted zone.
When people say, why the lie? One of the main answers is they're hiding more land.
What if we can truly become free? The whole reason for this is because of more land. Because think about it. If there's more real estate, if there's more resources, natural resources, if there's more food for our starving children,
says the actual millionaire.
If there's more space, more room for us to get away from the child sex trafficking, if there's places where we can go and other civilizations we can be a part of, where they don't charge you for water, they don't charge you for free energy, they don't charge you for property taxes.
Yeah, those civilizations out on that extra land, they're very hot on their property tax. We'll give them that.
What if there is more land?
Nobody can go explore Antarctica, period.
Said no one ever.
Because if humanity found out there's more land, then the heliocentric theory is gone. They can't start adding more continents on the bottom of a ball. It's just, they wanted it silenced right away.
There is evidence out there through old maps, namely the 1,000-year-old Japanese Kawabashi map, which shows continents and lands outwardly of what they call the ice shelf or the ice wall.
Oh, you mean the map that's an entire work of fiction? That map? You lot are a bunch of suckers, aren't you?
So why are they teaching the globe model? Well, you see, the globe is a container, and it's a container of all the known land. The Jesuits and the Freemasons, they needed a new model because they wanted a new world order.
Because right now on a ball or in a snow globe, there's only 7 continents. That's all there is. So everything is very limited. We have a limited supply.
Indeed, and I can't help but think this is a major thing for you flat earthers. Everything is finite, everything. And you can't accept that. It ruins your little bedtime story in a variety of ways, doesn't it?
Resources are very scarce because the Earth is a globe, right? It's cut off, everything's cut off. If you open it up and there is more land, then there's plenty of resources. More land means more resources. Well, that's huge if they're hiding something like that. There's a scene in The Truman Show where Truman is like, I want to be an explorer when I get older.
I like to be an explorer, like the Great Magellan.
Oh, you're too late. There's really nothing left to explore.
Of course this is a fictional movie, but nevertheless I don't agree with that either. There is so much more to explore on this planet.
Imagine if there's like all these beautiful places to explore still, and finding out that there's all this land, it just opens up the door for discovery again.
Have you ever heard of the eyewitness testimony written in the books, The Iron Republic, The Smoky God, Worlds Beyond the Poles?
In the late 1800s, there was a series of articles written in Florida Magazine about a politician that was tired of what was going on here, got a big ship and a crew, was exploring Antarctica, and he found a passageway through, and he popped out into the ocean, was lost for about a month. Finally, they found land with a city, and they pulled up, and it was a very advanced, quite different civilization, and very friendly, and they stayed there, and he writes about all the experiences he had there.
Again, another work of fiction. What if I said to you that there were many hundreds of thousands of years ago these sort of religious people that sort of had magic powers that can move things with their mind, and they had weapons made of light, and they lived in a galaxy far, far away? That definitely happened.
In the late 1800s, they were talking about more land beyond Antarctica.
Remember, the word extraterrestrial means extra land. They're telling you that there's more land in here that they don't talk about.
There could be more land in some of the oceans where it's just all blue on the map. Nobody knows. You're not cruising around on big ships or flying over it on planes and looking, you know, nobody's out there charting anything.
Yeah, because it's already been done, buddy.
Have you heard of such a thing as no-fly zones?
Yes, usually something put in place for political or safety reasons.
For instance, you can't fly in certain areas near the Arctic Circle or the Antarctic Circle.
Where does it say that? You can't just make a statement and then expect everyone to believe it.
The reasons being is because there are lands there that we're not supposed to know about.
Any evidence for these lands at all, Santos?
They don't want those lands to be discovered.
All these corrupt systems that are stealing money from us, kidnapping our children, just doing horrible things, they rely upon the cattle staying on the ranch, the slaves on the plantation. That's why Flat Earth is the most important knowledge we can obtain, is because there is more land.
Don't look at us and say, go prove it.
Isn't that a reasonable thing to do, though?
They won't allow us to go prove it.
Oh, that bloody they. They're so awful, aren't they?
We're not the lazy ones here. We're being restricted from going to prove this to you.
Well, the last time you tried to prove something, it didn't end too well, did it?
A 15-degree-per-hour drift.
Thanks, Bob.
The North Pole is a biggie. It's always been in my mind. I've juggled with the idea, is there hidden land? Could they have possibly hidden a continent in the Arctic Ocean, which is seemingly an ocean? They could hide land there. Many, many old maps will show you the Hyperborean, 4 continents, and in the center, Axis Mundi. And I think that's what's there. I think there is Mount Meru. And I think that gives off an acoustic device.
So let me get this straight. Because of an old map, you think there's a mountain in the middle of the North Pole with an acoustic device inside of it. So let's take a look at the North Pole, shall we? Doesn't seem too mountainous to me. Now, it's well understood, of course, that the North Pole sits on the Arctic ice sheet, which is a giant sheet of ice covering the Arctic Ocean.
There's definitely something special going on up there, and if you just think about that long enough, why do compasses point north? I mean, that's really wild in itself. What if we all took our compasses out and just followed them until it stops?
Why is that wild? The Earth has a magnetic field which acts like a bar magnet. The magnetic field lines travel from the pole outwards in a loop and back to the other pole. A compass merely points in the direction of these field lines.
A compass will always point north, towards the magnetic north. There's some kind of force or some type of energy, frequency, vibration that's pulling that needle to the north.
Yes, the Earth's magnetic field, driven by the rotating molten outer core, something that a flat Earth cannot do.
It's crazy to think that all compasses are pointing north.
I'm sorry, why is that crazy to think? Are these guys for real?
To the North Pole. No compass points south.
Well, the other end of a compass needle points south, doesn't it?
There is no South Pole. There's no compass that's going to go south. No, it's come past, come to the north. There's something there.
Certainly not a brain cell.
I think we could all agree there's something there. And it's crazy that they cover it up. They've covered it up for so long.
There's ancient civilizations, the Nordics. There's people have talked about, you know, the Rupert Nigra, the Mount Meru, the giant magnetic mountain at the center.
An entire magnetic mass or a mountain that is strong enough to make everybody's compass point north.
When I was a kid in school, they showed us a National Geographic video of the guys that were getting to the North Pole, and they just basically made it look so horrible and miserable and dark and cold that no kid ever in his life would go, hey, I want to go to the North Pole.
Because it's the North Pole. What, you want them to dress it up? They didn't make it look like anything. It is what it is, the North Pole.
So if you watch any documentary about the North Pole or anybody venturing to the North Pole, all you're gonna find is some dude mobbing on an ice sheet, and he's got a little device in his hand. He's like, 3, 2, 1, North Pole. And that's not the North Pole, man. That's bullshit.
Totally disrespecting the achievements of these people is not going to make your case any better. These people go through hell and back to show the limits of human endeavour. And you sit there in a beanie hat making cheesy music videos refuting anything that seems a little bit too hard for you.
I think that there's possibly a North Pole hole, part of the electromagnetic torus, which gives off a green light, which you see as the Northern Lights.
Any evidence for that, or is it just a guess? Because we know what causes the Northern Lights and we have evidence for it.
The North Pole is the centre of the Earth. It is a hyperbola. Because we live in a toroidal field solar system, there must be a plane of inertia intersecting it in the middle, and there must be a hyperbola, hourglass, in the middle. In the Srimad Bhagavatam, Canto 5, it calls this Mount Meru. And why are we not allowed to go anywhere near there? Well, simply because you cannot go there. It is a magnetic toroidal hyperbola. Therefore, there is no way that you can fly anywhere near the North Pole in the centre of the Earth.
The word Salad King there. Plenty of flights have, of course, flown over the North Pole. Emirates regularly fly across the North Pole on their routes from Dubai to the west coast of America.
Admiral Richard Byrd said he found more land, you know, in the north as well as the south. There's a book called The Smoky God of a father and son that ended up finding more land in a race of giants with technology beyond your wildest imagination. Cartographers have charted, you know, maps with land in the center, you know, where all compasses point. There's just a lot of evidence pointing to more land. So yeah, 100%, I would put my life on it that there's more land at the north.
Are you sure about that? You shouldn't really say that if you haven't passed high school science.
It's just as heavily guarded as the south.
Can't be like, go check the north and yeah, let me go check. I'll take some pictures and videos and come back. You're not even gonna get that close. You're gonna be turned around, the same as the south.
All the way up until the 1600s, they had 4 land masses around the North Pole region. And right after the 1600s is when it slowly started disappearing until finally it was all gone.
Yeah, sorry. I forgot that in the 1600s they definitely absolutely had satellites so they could see what the Earth looked like. Definitely take their word for it.
And you can verify this for yourself if you just go back before the 1600s and look at maps of all sorts. You'll see these land masses on each one, and then sure thing, these land masses just started being deleted from history.
It's called correcting our mistakes and making something more accurate.
So what are they hiding at the North Pole?
If we sit back and observe all of this evidence, this eyewitness testimony, the verdict would come back guilty. It would come back guilty.
What would? The North Pole? Seems a bit of an odd thing to say.
If the Earth is spinning at 1,000 miles an hour in a curved trajectory, we're dropping at a rate of miles per minute, but somehow none of that inertia affects these rocks here.
Yes, because when you picked up those rocks, they were spinning with the Earth too already, as are you standing next to it. It's all relative.
Which are perfectly balanced.
The fact is, the Earth is stationary, and that is scientific, not pseudoscience. In 1879, George Airy, astronomer royal for 49 years, who did a telescope experiment and proved that the Earth was stationary
That is completely not true. Airy's water telescope experiment was designed to try and detect the theorised ether. The idea was that a water-filled telescope would give a different stellar aberration value than an air-filled one. Stellar aberration is the slight movement of a star from its true position because of Earth's velocity in its orbit. Airy detected no change at all in his experiment, which debunked the ether theory and only confirmed a moving Earth. Amazing that Santos brings up an experiment which actually proves Earth's motion.
Then we have
Parallax, also known as Rowbotham, who carried out an experiment in the late 1800s on the Bedford Levels experiment, where he went at a distance of 6 miles, which should have showed up some sort of curvature of around 16 foot. No curvature was seen at all.
This one really annoys me. So the Bedford level experiment actually did prove curvature. Wallace, the same Wallace who was Darwin's best buddy, set up the experiment as follows. On one bridge, Wallace placed a black band, then halfway up the canal, about 3 miles, he put a pole with 2 discs on it. Then he viewed the first bridge from 6 miles down the canal. If the Earth was indeed flat, then the top disc and the black band should be seen together. But in actual fact, he saw this, which shows us that the Earth is indeed curved. Dear oh dear, another piece of curvature evidence that the flat earthers bring forth.
Then we have Michelson, Morley and Sagnac in the early 1900s with their interferometers using light instead of telescopes this time. And with their interferometer experiments, they proved that the ether over the Earth, the field, is moving and the Earth is stationary.
Wow, strike 3. Let's look at the actual evaluation from Michelson, shall we? Ah yes, that bit here which the flat earthers read, and then this bit here which they clearly do not. You're destroying yourself here, guys.
We also have Michelson-Gale. They did an experiment in the 1930s and proved that the Earth is stationary.
And guess what?
One of the greatest science experiments of all time, in my opinion, is from Marconi. Marconi, in 1901, set up transmitters to send radio waves, like signals, wireless signals across the ocean, Atlantic Ocean, okay? So he has one set up in Europe and one set up in Canada, okay? And they're sending signals, I think the letter S was the first one, boom, and it worked. Almost 2,000 miles across the ocean, they got the signal. There's no curvature. You're talking about 600 miles of curvature between the 2 points. But it worked. Because all water's level. I don't even know if he was trying to talk about that at the time. It was just more about his technology that he was coming out with. And have you learned about that in school? No.
Marconi used medium frequency radio waves for this transmission. Light waves which are reflected off the ionosphere. That is how he got that signal to Canada.
Then we have Pierluigi Gina, a colleague of Marconi. And before he died, he showed people in his laboratory how the Earth is stationary. You can go to my channel, Mr. Astrotheology, and you can see videos of Mr. Pierluigi Gina proving in his laboratory with strobe lights how you can prove quite easily that the Earth is stationary.
I will check that one out, Santos, but it probably gives the same result as the rest of the recommendations that you've given us.
Every scientific experiment throughout time looking for axial rotation or curvature has proven the opposite. They don't teach this in schools. Any observation, when you go outside on a calm morning, you can see a perfectly glass lake. And your senses will tell you that, nothing is moving.
Yes, because our senses are so trustworthy, aren't they? Here's an old video I did on that, by the way, and it's very interesting.
We, stationary earthers, we have science, real science, on our side, and the globies have pseudoscience. In fact, all they have is Einstein saying, I have come to believe that no optical experiment can prove that the Earth is moving. And yet, the Earth is moving.
Yes, and since then, people have actually seen it moving, haven't they? People have seen it rotate with their own eyes from space.
Science!
Yeah, Albert Einstein. I always recommend people go watch Albert Einstein in his interviews. He's reading cue cards. He's reading notes. that someone handed him, kind of like people on TV nowadays.
Oh yeah, no possibility that he wrote those notes himself, is there?
There is no optical experiment ever been conducted that can prove that the Earth is moving.
The Earth is spinning at 1,040 miles an hour. You can't feel it. You can't measure it. You can't observe it. You can't repeat it. But trust us, there's not one experiment that shows the Earth is spinning or moving whatsoever. There is, however, an experiment that was proven in Behind the Curve.
Bob Nodell was talking about the ring laser gyro, showing that there is a apparent 15 degrees drift throughout most of the day.
Oh my days, oh my days, oh my days, here it is.
When we turned on that gyroscope, we found that we were picking up a drift, a 15-degree-per-hour drift.
Thanks, Bob!
And this was taken out of context. It was later, the experiment was done at a higher altitude, and it showed a different rotation speed, which absolutely proves it's not the Earth that's moving, that it's the ether that is spinning above us.
Oh, of course it did, Dave. And where is the evidence for this repeat experiment?
Netflix is mainstream. Netflix is the alternative mainstream narrative. Netflix can't go against the grain. They'll lose their contract.
A documentary, like a mockumentary. I'm sure someone watched our movie and was like, whoever made this movie is a government shill, and they're just trying to hide it. Netflix is in on it, trying to hide it. Yeah, he accidentally proves that the Earth is round.
It was the biggest mic drop. It was the biggest mic drop. And I love that you kind of cut it. The thing is, we have technology that is outrunning their lies. Now we have time lapse. Ooh, imagine that. We have time lapse where we can point at the sky, and year after year, day after day, hour after hour, the sky's...
Time-lapse is not new technology. And yes, it does appear to spin, of course, but that's from our perspective on a spinning globe.
Every day there should be different stars, random stars, in the sky if we are travelling at 650 million miles an hour.
No, there shouldn't. Who says that? Why would there be? The nearest star to us, other than the sun, is over 4 light years away. That is a tremendous distance.
Which is Mach 870,000. Do you really believe that every year we move through space at 5.5 trillion miles every year? And yet every year the same stars keep turning over our Earth. Aries, Taurus, Gemini, Cancer, Leo, Virgo, Libra, Scorpio, Sagittarius, Capricorn, Aquarius, Pisces. Year after year after year, and yet none of those constellations distort, change shape.
Actually they do, and have been for most of Earth's existence. For instance, given current radial velocities of all the stars, the Big Dipper will actually look like this in about 50,000 years' time.
Get brighter. There has never been, in recorded history, we have never seen any star get brighter or dimmer.
Here is Betelgeuse dimming between October 2019 and February 2020.
Or any shape of those constellations which are still recognisable today as they were thousands of years ago.
They have changed slightly since then, just not enough to notice.
They never suffer any parallax or distortion.
Polaris has never moved in all of recorded history.
Our survey said...
Yes, it has, and it won't even be the North Star in about 300 to 400 years.
Point your camera up at Polaris and do a time lapse and watch God's perfect timepiece spin above you.
And we move 5,694,000,000 miles through space every year. Congratulations to you if you believe that.
Ah, thank you.
If you look back in history, you got Universal, their company. They started off with a logo with the globe in it, but it wasn't until like the 1920s that they actually had the motion one where it was a spinning globe. And they actually had an airplane in the early ones, like leaving a chemtrail that said Universal, which is kind of funny. Nobody has been high enough to even see what it looked like. They were definitely trying to instill the image of a globe in people's heads, because obviously early on in the movie industry, they were one of the most popular companies to make movies, so people were going to the theater and seeing this globe.
So they're showing you a globe before every single movie to program your mind. They were showing this globe before they even went up there to see what it was.
Okay, fine, but then we do go up and see what it was, and then you don't believe it.
I think the first man ever to go up and check is Picard going up there. I mean, that's a story we're not taught in school.
From the practical point of view, Professor Picard's experiment is of the highest possible importance.
These timelines, these dates, these are facts.
We got Auguste Picard coming out in the 1930s in an actual publication by a science journal saying that the Earth looks like a flat disk with an upturned edge.
It seemed. Picard went up to over 15,000 meters. At that height, the curvature of the Earth would still be very slight, certainly difficult to see through a small porthole.
Besides Universal programming you, you had Walt Disney programming you with space documentaries for almost 15 years straight.
Some pretty crazy propaganda in the 1950s. There was one called Man in Space. He's talking about taking men to the moon in a rocket. And then if we cruise on, we got Richard E. Byrd. He goes on Longines chronoscope and he's sitting down and he's telling people,
strangely enough, there's left in the world today an area as big as the United States that's never been seen by a human being.
Shortly after Richard E. Byrd did that interview, they put the Antarctic Treaty in place, and then 1 year later, NASA is established.
How dare us humans try to advance themselves, hey ODD? How very dare they?
They come in and they're the gatekeepers for your mind. Like, they're making sure that people think that they live on a spinning ball, and that's their sole purpose.
Well, no, their sole purpose is to explore the secrets of the universe to benefit us all. That is it. At this point, they put together a little highlight reel here of all the things and all the little clips which they think NASA have messed up on. It's all been debunked before and it's a bit boring, so we'll move on to the genius talkers.
NASA is hiding the frickin' flatness of the Earth. Why? It's okay to say, I have a fisheye lens, right? Because yeah, fisheye lenses are useful. You know, you get more, in architecture or, realtors use them. But when you're doing it too much and you're not really coming out and saying why, questions build up.
You've literally just said why. They've got a really big depth of field and they're super wide. You can see more. Space is big. The Earth is big. The more you can see, the better.
Even though Felix Baumgartner himself said he could see the curvature of the Earth.
It's almost overwhelming. When you're standing there in a pressure suit, the only thing that you hear is yourself breathing. You can see the curvature of the Earth.
Let me guess. Felix is in on it?
You can see the sky is totally black. You can see the curvature of the Earth. You can see the curvature of the Earth.
You can see the curvature of the Earth.
That's 120,000 feet, 4 times higher than most passenger planes fly.
So that should make you go, right away, what's going on here? Who's lying?
We've established that Neil deGrasse Tyson was mistaken. No lying involved.
Right? But you don't think there's an agenda here? You don't think people are lying here? Fast forwarding to recently, Richard Branson, his Mr. Billionaire himself. So you go 63 miles up, you would all probably assume that, of course, you could see this giant curve of Earth. You're 63 miles up. Richard Branson supposedly goes up 63 miles, even though it's nothing but fisheye lens footage. We expose that. Here comes Neil deGrasse Tyson again, damage control time.
Well, 63 miles is certainly enough. That's over 100 kilometres. And remember, Mr. Sensible's Mage weather balloon saw curvature about 38 kilometres.
Oh, by the way, you didn't ask, but I'm going to tell you. Do you know how high up above the Earth he was?
No,
so if you take a
63 miles.
Oh, yeah, tell you what. So take a schoolroom globe, and that's how high above it is he? So he's about 2 millimeters above the surface of a schoolroom globe. So nobody has seen the curvature of the Earth from that height. I just want to make that clear.
I don't know why Neil is getting this so wrong and being so adamant about it as well. The great Mick West has actually debunked Neil here. I'll leave the link for that in the description.
You can't see the curve out of an airplane, right? 10 miles. You agree? I hope you agree so far? Okay. So 10 miles up, no curve. Red Bull, 23 miles up, no curve. Branson, 63 miles up, no curve. So where is this curve at that you swear by?
Those statements are false though. You cannot take the word of one guy, who was wrong by the way, and then claim that to be fact.
Because if you live on a ball, I don't care how big the ball is, it could be 4 times the size of what they told us, you would still see a physical curve at some point. That's what the horizon's supposed to be. That's how the sun is going. I mean, there's a curve of the earth. All these theories involved with the curve of the earth get thrown out the window.
There are no theories about the curve of the earth. It's a sphere. There is a curve. But again, oh, Santos is coming up. Looking forward to this.
We all know who our enemies are. They are called the globalists, with their false idol that they give children on the teacher's table at kindergarten, the false globe of the global agenda.
People are just deceived. I mean, I grew up from kindergarten. There's a globe. My kids, you know, they graduated from kindergarten and it was a freaking globe. They gave them a globe at graduation to take home like an inflatable beach ball. And I was looking at that thing going, oh my God.
We are taught that the earth is a ball before we can talk.
Well, it's where we live. Why would you not do that?
In school, there's a globe in the class. One of the first worksheets we get is a sheet on the orbits of the planets and the sun. And I actually still remember that sheet. I did it. I got it right. I was so proud of myself.
At least you got something right, hey Dave.
When people hear about flat earth, when I talk to them about it, they think it's the dumbest thing ever. They think I'm uneducated. They don't realize that they don't know what they're talking about. And people say, well, what about ships over the horizon? You explain that. What about sunsets? You explain that. What about seasons? You explain that. And then they throw their hands up and go, well, why does it matter? What difference does it make? I still have to go to work tomorrow. That's right where they want you. They want you working in your slave job. They want you obeying orders, doing what you're told, and living paycheck to paycheck, and just not realizing where you are. The truth is, we're not spinning out of control, lost in space, where an asteroid could take us out. They want us believing we're running out of fuel. They want us to believe we're running out of food, when anyone can go and get a seed, stick it into the ground, water will fall from the sky, and food will grow out of the ground.
Anyone can do that, Dave, can they? Anyone? How flippin' insensitive can you be? There are hundreds of millions of people who go hungry on this planet every single day. If it was as easy as you say it is, there wouldn't be an issue.
There is no shortage of water, food, space. Every American family could have a half an acre in Texas and the rest of the country would be empty. They're lying about everything.
Well, as long as you're all okay in America, hey Dave.
You let your kids get raised and taught by other people that you don't know what they're learning. Everybody's disconnected. There is no harmony or anything going on with human beings. We're all scattered, disconnected, and pretty much what they're doing with teaching us this whole lie about the earth being a ball, and you're flying through outer space, and dinosaurs used to roam the earth, and if these powerful beings could get wiped out by a comet, then what are we gonna do if a comet comes? We're done.
Dinosaurs had a brain the size of a tennis ball. We could do something, maybe, but we wouldn't be totally helpless.
So the heliocentric model not only manages to keep us all completely worthless floating amongst the stars in space, but it also keeps us in fear that we're either going to knock into something in the future, or there's going to be something that then bangs into us that causes some sort of horrendous collision and we're all going to die, or maybe, you know, some cartoon satellite has found another planet where there could be like flesh-eating monsters on there, and it's, you know, some sort of crazy that they throw down your face and try and say, you know, this is, as well as everything else that you're scared of, keeping your house, keeping your health, keeping your family together, there's also a chance as well that some rock may fall from the sky and kill you tomorrow.
Someone's been watching too many movies, but in all seriousness, you could get hit by a bus tomorrow. Anything could happen. I'll never understand this argument from flat earthers.
What's the circumference of the globe?
I have no idea.
How fast is it spinning at the equator?
Don't know.
How fast is it orbiting the sun?
Cody, you have glasses on. You should know this.
How fast is the sun moving?
Man, you're asking some questions I'm not ready to answer.
See, this is the point. You guys laugh at flat Earth, but one, you don't know what flat Earth is, and worse is you don't even know what your own solar system is.
The regular person on the street does not know. That is a fair point. But there are plenty of people who do know that stuff and still laugh at flat Earth, so...
I settled on near infrared, like some of these cameras can be converted to near infrared, you know? So then I started taking photos, and since I was doing a lot of flying, I started going up, and boom. I was actually amazed to see the incredible flatness that you get from high altitude.
Let's just go back a bit there. Ooh, that looks a little bit curvy to me there at the edges.
Everywhere I looked, there was like clues that the Earth is flat. And I was like, this is blowing my mind. Everywhere I looked, the Earth is flat. And NASA is lying about the curvature. So I said, something is eerily wrong over here, man. When I saw across the Gulf, right off the coast of Texas there in Louisiana, I was flying to Orlando, and I saw all the way out in the distance, and you could even see the rays of light at a different angle. That tripped me out. But if you really go up high, then you realize, oh my God, the Earth is extremely flat.
J-Tolomania has been debunked quite brilliantly by MC Toon and FTFE amongst others.
This would be impossible on a globe. There is no 8 inches per mile square.
The equation for curvature of 8 inches per mile squared has been debunked over and over again. The flat earthers with their P900s and their P1000 cameras are constantly seeing things way off beyond the supposed curvature of Earth.
In fact, many tests have been done with lasers, cameras, filming mountain ranges 300, 400, 500, 600, 700 miles into the horizon, which are visible and shouldn't be visible if we were living on a globe.
All of which has been explained and or debunked.
This is how much distance he covered with his camera, and he could see from here the Rocky Mountains. There you go.
No way he saw the Rocky Mountains from up in an aeroplane. What a shock.
There is no 8 inches per mile square.
There's no way you can see 500 miles on the other side of this ball. There's no buildings that are curving backwards. If point A to point B, you're on a ball, you know, they're not gonna be flat up and down like on our flat Earth. They're gonna be like this. There's no tilting. They've measured distances from the base of buildings to the top, level and flat.
Oh, really? The towers of the Verrazano Narrows Bridge are 41 millimeters further apart at the top than they are at the bottom.
People look out at the ocean and you see ships and stuff, and it appears like these ships and boats, they go down. And that is a huge factor as to why people think the Earth is round. You could buy a camera now that zooms times 100, and you could zoom in on these ships and boats leaving your view, your human eyeballs view, pull out a camera and zoom in on it, and suddenly you're back, it's on top of a level surface, still cruising.
But what about this ship? Or this one? Or what about this one? No amount of zooming are to bring those back onto the surface.
So the limit of your vision is where the sky meets the ground due to perspective. As they come together, that's the limit of your vision. That's called our horizon. The horizon is optical. If you had a super zoom camera, you can zoom in and make this angular size bigger to reveal small objects that you couldn't see.
Okay, but that doesn't prove anything other than the fact that we can't see smaller objects. Right, I know I said this will be the final instalment, but next month there's going to be a bonus video with some of the last few minutes of the documentary, so look forward to that. For now though, we are all sorted, all done and dusted for another Flat Earth Friday. It has truly been a pleasure. Thank you so much for watching. I'll leave the link for the first 2 parts of this debunking in the description. If you haven't seen them yet, you can check those out. Then you can watch them all in a row. And as I said before, at the end of all this, I'll do a giant supercut of all 4 videos debunking this documentary, and I'll make sure that it's visible, or try and make sure that it's visible before the documentary itself when it's searched on YouTube. Thank you so much for watching. As I said, it truly is appreciated. If you enjoyed it today, hit that like button, and please do consider subscribing too. We're very close to 450,000. I've been Simon Dan. Have yourselves a great weekend, and I'll see you all on Tuesday for some more tinfoil fun. See you then.